Mayan crystal skulls. Are they an ancient artifact? A hoax or a curse left by a vanished civilization? 13 perfectly crafted skulls of pure quartz, whose origin has stumped scientists for 100 years. Some say they have supernatural powers. Others believe they are the greatest archaeological fakes. Who created them, and why? Today, we'll unlock the secrets of the ancient world's most mysterious artifacts. Imagine a museum. There's a skull in the window, transparent, made of the purest quartz, perfectly shaped, full size, perfectly polished. No traces of machining with modern tools. No chips, no welds, no glue drips. Just a skull. It's as if it's grown, not carved. Next to it is a plaque. Mayan culture, ancient artifact, crystal skull. You get closer, and you feel like he's looking right through you. Like it knows something, or remembers. And so began one of the most mysterious archaeological stories of the 20th century. A story that weaves together secret expeditions, dumb artifacts, mystics, Nazis, Hollywood directors, shamans, and the great hoax of the century. If it's all a lie, so what are they? Crystal skulls? Proof of ancient knowledge? Alien beacons? Falsification for glory? Or something we're not yet ready to know? It all began in the year 1924. An explorer and adventurer by the name of Tutiford, Frederick Albert Mitchell-Hedges, was excavating in Belize, in the ancient Mayan city of Lubaantun. With him was his adopted daughter, Anna Mitchell-Hedges, who was 17 years old at the time. According to legend, it was she who discovered the first of the crystal skulls. So, it was on the eve of her birthday. In the ruins of one of the temples, from under a fallen slab, she supposedly seemed a glimmer. When archaeologists cleared the rubble, they recovered a perfectly carved skull from a solid piece of rock crystal. No tools, no sutures. It weighed almost 5 kilos. Best of all, the skull had a lens system built into it, through which light could be amplified. The skull literally glowed from the inside out. Mitchell-Hedges called it the Skull of Doom, and claimed that the artifact was older than the Egyptian pyramids, and impossible to manufacture. Neither in the past nor in the present. So, to date, there are 13 crystal skulls, held in various museums and private collections. The most famous are the Mitchell-Hedges skull, now held by her descendants, Paris skulls, items from the collection of the Musée de l'Homme, London skull, in the British Museum, Smithsonian skull, donated to the Smithsonian Institute in the USA. Several more are in private hands, the provenance of which is still not documented. Surprisingly, all of these skulls vary in size, material density, transparency, and degree of processing. Some are anatomically accurate, others are crudely carved. Some are made of rock crystal, others are made of quartz, aventurine, even obsidian. This suggests that they have different origins, but they all have one thing in common: no tool marks. Just a mystical, frightening smoothness. But are they really from Mesoamerica? This is where the paradox lies. in no official archaeological report, in no official Maya for ritual text, in no temple complex, in no scenes on stelae, there is not a single mention of a crystal skull. Yes, the Mayans used the symbolism of death. Yes, they deified skulls, made sacrificial rituals, skulls of basalt, bone, wood, but not crystal. Moreover, the Maya had no tools capable of working quartz of such density with such precision. Even skeptical archaeologists have confirmed this, which begs the question, if the Mayans didn't make them, then who did? And that's where it gets interesting. There are 3 main hypotheses about the origin of the crystal skulls. The first is authenticity and extraterrestrial intervention. Proponents of this version, including a number of modern esotericists, shamans, and even physicists, claim the skulls are artifacts left behind by highly advanced civilizations, either predating Earthlings or alien beings. They point to the perfect geometry of the lenses inside some of the skulls, absence of instrumental traces, unexplained effects, temperature changes, flashes of light, pressure sensations, and, most importantly, similar symbolism. Despite geographical differences, proponents of the theory claim that the skulls are stores of information, some kind of ancient memory stick. Legend says that when years, 13 skulls are brought together, mankind will gain access to ancient knowledge, or will be warned of danger. Most scientific archaeologists subscribe to this hypothesis. They believe that the portion to decode crystal skulls are fakes towards made in Europe, probably in France or Germany, in the late 19th century. See the date. Why? Because it was during this period in Europe that there was a surge of interest in mysticism. Our Egyptology, Mesoamerican cultures, the bazaars of Mexico and Paris were flooded with fake artifacts. Quartz workshops in Germany were capable of chiseling such items with jewel-like precision. And if you don't look for tool marks, it could pass for antiquity. Some scholars suggest that part of the skulls may indeed have been made by the ancients, albeit not the Maya, using rougher techniques, sand polishing, bone polishing, water polishing. But then, in the 19th to 20th centuries, these skulls were restored, polished, improved, looking for a sensation. That is, the skull is genuine, and its perfection is the result of human desire to make a miracle out of the find. What do the experiments say? In the early 2000s, the British Museum and the Smithsonian Institution conducted independent studies of the crystal skulls in their collections. The key question was, were these skulls really made in antiquity, or was it a skillful forgery? The results were stunning. Using electron microscopes and laser scanning, the researchers found that the surface of most of the skulls has machining traces characteristic of 19th and 20th century abrasives. Some elements of the geometry were created with rotary tools that did not exist in Mayan times. The carving features coincided with stone-working techniques into German factories of the 19th century, especially around Idar Oberstein, a quartz processing center. Conclusion: the skulls are made in new times, perhaps even in the 20th century. So, is it all a hoax? It's not that simple. The most famous and most mysterious of all, the Mitchell-Hedges skull, has not been given to any museum. It's privately owned. which means no one can study it without the family's permission. Its owner, Anne's daughter, and later her successor, Bill Homan, refused to participate in independent examinations. Why did Homan argued that any research was profanation and that the skull chooses who to work with. Nevertheless, limited testing was conducted in the 90s by Hewlett-Packard. It showed that the skull created from twice a single piece of double refracted quartz. It has a etchy system of lenses and prisms embedded inside the skull to amplify and focus light. The center of gravity is perfectly distributed, despite the handcrafted nature of the work. However, HP noted, they have no explanation for how such a thing could have been carved without modern tools. So, could it be that this skull is the real thing, or is it just the most successful forgery? Proponents of the theory of mystical properties of skulls give other arguments. In many indigenous cultures of Central America, the maskull is a sacred symbol. It is associated with the beyond, with sacrifice, with rebirth. The Aztecs even had a god of the skull, Mictlantecutli, Lord of the afterlife. And a number of traditions, recorded already in the Xtec century, mention transparent skulls that speak Panpui or Sankutrad. Mayan shamans from Guatemala spoke of memory tools that were passed down from generation to generation. But none of them mentioned quartz, only bone and pottery. Nevertheless, when shamans were shown crystal skulls, some of them fell into a trance. Others refused to touch, saying, "There's a spirit in it, but it's not from us." So whose was it? The crystal skulls became truly known to the public thanks to pseudo-documentaries, 20th century novels and comic books. The film Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, 2008 year. It was after the release of this film that interest in skulls increased tenfold. In Mexico, there were souvenir shops selling glass skulls based on Mayan technology. In the US, there were even activation ceremonies for the skulls. But critics point out, all of this is commercial mythology. So, if the skulls are fake, why do they work? Can't? Why do people feel energy? Why do shamans go into trance? There are two theories. The first is the faith effect. The human mind tends to attribute symbolic meaning to an object. If you believe the skull is ancient, it becomes ancient to your perception. The second is that an object carries a charge, regardless of the date of creation. It's not time that determines the power of a symbol, it's the energy we put into it. And if it's true, among all the versions, one is particularly fascinating. It is believed that there were once 13 crystal skulls, each holding a fragment of knowledge. One was the structure of time, two, the memory of the race, the third, the control of energy, the others, the secrets of origin, of space, of matter. When all the skulls are collected in one place, under the right conditions, the truth will be revealed. Or catastrophe. It sounds like a fairy tale, but here's the odd thing. 13 skulls have indeed been discovered, and copies of them are now in museums and collections around the world. They can't be put together. They've never been put together. And anyone who has tried has been ridiculed or died of accidents. Too convenient for fiction or too weird to be an accident? Where does all this go? What if the crystal skulls are not a source of ancient knowledge, but a mirror for leaders into which we look? We look through them for a message, but we see our own fears, dreams, and doubts. We call them mystical because we don't want to believe in a fake. We hope for an ancient secret because it makes more sense than a souvenir from a London antique market. And maybe that's their real strength? Because they work. Even if they were made yesterday, even if they're carved in a German factory, even if it's all an act, they work because they trigger ancient mechanisms in us. They awaken an archetype. They access the fear of death, the memory of the family, the image of the skull, the eternal symbol of transition, sacrifice, spirit. Maybe the truth is not in who made them. It's about why we want them to be real. While scientists argue the skulls continue to live, in Brazil, there's a village where a skull is considered the rain keeper. In Canada, a group of healers using a quartz skull to reprogram memory. In Peru, shamans who claim to see ancestral dreams in them. In Europe, collectors who lock skulls in safes against radiation. In London, there is a closed club of skull researchers, which includes esotericists, mathematicians, psychologists, and even one former NASA employee. They are trying to decipher the shape, believing that the laws of the universe are encoded in the ratios of the skull. So far, no one has proven otherwise. Some are convinced that crystal skulls carry a panki curse, tui. The man who first exhibited one of the skulls in a museum died a fortnight later. A collector in Switzerland, blind in one eye. After spending the night with a skull in his bedroom, a French jeweler trying to make a replica of the skull threw himself in front of a train, leaving a note, "He's looking, he's breathing." Of course, these are all coincidences. Maybe. Or perhaps the manifestation of a power we have no control over. Because if a symbol gains power, it becomes alive. A few years ago, a document was found in the archives of a German museum. It stated that in the year 1923, shortly before the discovery of the Mitchell-Hedges skull, an anonymous collector from Frankfurt commissioned the production of a luminous skull made of quartz, according to anatomical proportions. That could be a coincidence, but in the same archive was attached a photograph of a skull, almost identical to Anna's skull, only without the lenses. What if the Belize find was an act? What if the skull was brought there in advance to make an impact? Why? To create a modern myth. To make the world believe in a mystery worthy of the ancient gods, and to I'd never seek the truth. Because belief is stronger than knowledge. Nor so is it fake, or is it the most brilliant work of art of the 20th century, in which myth is stronger than matter. A shop window, light, silence. The crystal skull lies there and stares. It says nothing, but you can feel it. He knows you're looking at him. He doesn't answer, because the question is too deep, He's empty. But in him is everything. Death, memory, form, a symbol, infinity. It could be a joke, or it could be the Yace. Last letter from the depths of the past that we have yet to decipher. So, what are crystal skulls? A fake from the 19th century? The secret legacy of an alien civilization? The hoax of an adventurous archaeologist? Or the most enduring myth of the XX century? Maybe all of them at once, or maybe none of these. But one thing is certain. They continue to affect us. They're still here. They're still here. Thank you for watching to the end. Share this video and write in the comments. Would you dare to look into a crystal skull and question your destiny?